Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. We are up dead early on the first Monday of June. We're so happy that you can join us. My name is Mark Daniels.
And I'm Davriel Gardner, and a happy Monday to you.
To you. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a while.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah. Welcome back. I know you weren't feeling well. I was traveling. There was a lot going on. We had guest hosting. Carlos, thanks for holding it down. Godfrey holding it down. But we're back. And it's the first Monday of June, so we're happy to be here, right?
Oh, yeah. Where did the year go? We're 6 months into the
in,
year, right? Like I literally feel like we just did our New Year's episode, and here we are.
Yeah.
At the halfway mark.
Yeah. But I'm bad though. I mean, summertime is approaching, which once again, your children is going to be free. They're going to be roaming the streets. So we got summer camps going on, summer jobs going on, summer trips going on, summer vacations and all of that. And as I put in a plug for summer vacations, make sure to check out your family islands, because I was in Cat Island last week for work. Just happened to catch the beginning of the Cat Island Reagan's Crepe Festival. And man, Cat Island, they say that's Godland, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Andres, don't beat me up, right? Because we can be there soon. But man, Cat Island was the place to be. I know Long Island was on and popping. And so visit your family islands this summer. Make your plans now, because, it's ours, right? We gotta enjoy our things.
And if you're going on a summer vacation, particularly to the family islands this summer, maybe you're like me and you've just discovered a refocus on your summer body, you know? So this is your encouragement to get out there, to exercise, to eat right. There's still time. There's still time for us. It might not be the summer body of your dreams, but a little summer body renovation.
People would say my summer body is the body I got. Right?
Yes.
And I tell you a little secret. You want that quick summer body? Go eat some barry, eh? I'll talk about that one later.
I will say everybody is a beach body. However, you might want to do a little thing.
Yeah. But so glad to be back with everyone. Before we get started, we have some birthday shout outs. First of all, shout out to Terrence here in the studio. Brother Terrence, happy belated birthday. Oh, well, you're probably about 18, 21. You just get your driver's license. We got to go out for your first drink. 18-year-old Terrence, hey, happy birthday, man. And more laps around the sun to you. Happy birthday also to Walt Farrington. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, another trip around the sun. And birthday greetings go to Samantha Colebrook. All these birthdays, man,
I forgot. I also want to wish a happy birthday to my cousin, Charisse. She just had a birthday.
June must be the month, right? My second son, his birthday is June 24th. So plenty of things to celebrate in June, right?
It's a big month.
It is a big month. And we got a great show for you today. The Tourism Development Corporation is here to talk about agro-tourism. And Doctors Hospital will talk with us about women's health.
We'll also hear about the Reaching the Streets training seminar, which starts tomorrow. And Zhivargo Laing is here to tell us about the upcoming 50th Independence Distinguished Lecture Series. TCL invites you to the Andros Business Outlook coming up Thursday, June 15th at BAMSI in Andros. The conference will be hybrid. You can join virtually for $50 or in person for $80. Register today at tclevents.com. And now, let's have our first check on weather with Godfrey Burnside.
This is Weather at Sunrise.
Thank you, Davriel, and good morning, Bahamas. In your first look at weather at sunrise, the troughing that was happening over the last several days, causing all the wet weather and some flooding, the area is now weakening, along with the remnants of that tropical storm Arlene. Weak high pressure is building across the island, so we're going to have a little more stable atmosphere over the next couple of days, although we expect a weak front boundary move near Grand Bahama and Abaco sometime late tomorrow afternoon. Both for the most part today, a mix of sun and clouds. You can expect a few showers, maybe a nice little thunderstorm, mainly over water, 1 or 2 coming over the land. High temperature 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, partly cloudy, and there's a chance of nighttime shower, particularly in southeastern islands. You look going under 74 degrees Fahrenheit. And some regional highs and lows across the Caribbean. Barbados, 1978. In Jamaica, 89 and 81. In Trinidad, 91 and 76. And the Turks and Caicos Islands, 88 and 74. Across North America, Atlanta, 83 and 62. In Boston, 70 and 57. In Miami, 88 and 74. Dallas, Texas, 80 and 69. And Toronto, Canada, 75 and 55. As you go the week, like I said, weak frontal boundary should move near Grand Bahama and Abaco, should stall in that area. High pressure builds across the island, so we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds, a couple of showers, maybe after thunderstorms, they come mainly in the afternoon hours. So temperature daytime will be in the upper 80s, at nighttime in the mid 70s. That much traveling. First look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Gabrielle.
Thanks, Godfrey. Bahamas Faith Ministries will be hosting the Reaching the Streets training seminar scheduled for June 6th and 7th at 7 p.m. to teach persons how to engage with and minister to troubled youth and gang members. Here to tell us more are presenters at the event, Dr. Carlos Reid, anti-crime activist and senior pastor of the Kingdom Summit Ministries, and Dr. Eric Fox, Executive Director at Teen Challenge Ministries. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
It's good to be
I
here.
feel like I'm on TV with my uncles this morning.
Yeah.
Obviously, over the years, you two have both worked extremely close with my father. I've gotten to know you and gotten to see you all work together, particularly on helping troubled youth in the community. And of course, I'm privy to the fact that this particular seminar is an outgrowth of your book, where all three of you collaborated on, and it was called Reaching the Streets. So just tell me a little bit about the book and the thought process that went into it. I'll let either of you start.
I believe a lot of credit need to go to Dr. Dave Burrows, your father. He came up with this idea and said that we need to be able to collaborate our efforts. You know, we live in a difficult time in this country and along the world where young people in general are challenged. And our goal is to empower some people who could be able to reach and do what we have been doing for years. We realize with all of this white that we get on, that we ain't gonna be around that long. So I believe one of the best things that anybody could do is leave something on planet Earth for future generations, and that's what Reaching the Street, the book, is all about.
I believe a lot of people over the years see me and they, I want to be able to talk to these young people, but I believe because they don't come from the background I come from, they think, well, they don't have the ability to talk to young people. And I always tell them, I say, listen, man, we trying to get these young people to be normal. Mm-hmm. You're a normal person, right? So we're trying to get them back in the normal system. So a lot of them, I tell them, I say, you probably get more to say to them than me. Mm-hmm. I know they will go because we're trying to get them to be good, upright, standing citizens. Yes, I have some edge because I've done some stuff and I've been involved in some stuff. But that does not take away from the normal person who wants to get out there and really help with the problem we have in this country. So this seminar, I saw you mention the 6 and the 7. I think it's the 6 and the 9, eh? I think.
So yes, it is the 6 and the 9.
Yeah, it's the 6 and the 9, where all of us, Dr. Dave, Dr. Carlos, Reid, myself, we will all be sharing from our experiences and from information we have in the book. So I believe it's very important if you work with young people, if you work in HR, if you have kids, or just
Every walk.
Yeah, for all walks, that people need to come in and just get some crucial information on how to reach young people, especially in these times.
What would you say to the person, like you said, there are a lot of people who see the problem in terms of a lot of troubled youth, but they think, okay, but I didn't come, like you said, from a troubled background, or maybe I don't even have kids, I've never worked with young people before. If they're thinking about coming out, why should they come out? What are they going to leave the experience with?
Regardless whether you deal directly with it, you can come across it. Mm-hmm. You can't avoid this 21st century young people now. Daria, we use a word, and we use it so loosely. We talk about rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. But how can you rehabilitate that which has never been rehabilitated? So now our goal is to be able to help some people and show them how to habilitate people so we don't have to rehabilitate them. I spent on 2 different occasions almost $10,000 to go down to Chicago to study gangology, and became certified by the National Gang and Crime Research Center of America. And persons coming to this seminar, you can get like what I had to pay $10,000 for. We can try to condense that and put that into some stuff along with these other two awesome presenters. You know, the wealth of knowledge that we possess. I told somebody that that's almost 100 years of knowledge packed into 3% that you're going to be able to get. And guess what? If you sign up, you go online and sign up, you can get in for free. And not only that, it's going to be certified. So at the end of the day, you're going to receive a certification signed by the three of us. And guess what? That's going to empower you to do some things. But the knowledge that I receive, I now serve as a consultant to the government of the Bahamas. I wonder who's next.
I love that. Obviously, we're talking about the problem of troubled youth, but how do we tackle that? Let's say, what can we do as a society? What can we do on a structural level to prevent so many young people from finding themselves in troubled spaces?
Gabriel, I work with the Catholic Church with their Family Life Center in the domestic violence area for the last 19 years, and also as a consultant, I'm the management consultant with for social service and urban renewal. And my plan, my objective is to connect people with the way they treat their spouse, the way they act in the home. Now remember, now anger is an emotion that everybody has. Violence and abuse is a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior.
Wow.
So with my statistics, or with my training, I've come to find with the young men that come through my program, whether it's at Teen Challenge Farmers for drug use or whether it's my outpatient for anger management, most of these young men in particular has been traumatized, whether it's by their families or whether it's by their community. So you will find a lot of institutions that they go to for help. I don't want to point no fingers, play a part in traumatizing these young men. You know, when they should be getting treated with love and getting abused.
Yeah.
So now, if you abuse, most people who hurt people.
Yeah.
And so you'll find a lot of these young men in particular that I have counseled, you'll find when you do a background check on them, they've been abused. They've witnessed terrific situations in their life. They come up where there's domestic violence and stuff. So now my thing is, because a lot of people think, well, they acting psychological, they've been doing psychologically abusive, they've been verbally abusive, even some sexually abusive, they physically being abusive towards their family members and what's not. And they don't see how these kids are going to act this out. Because now they're learning this behavior. This is how you act when you don't get what you want. This is how you act when things doesn't go your way. And then with this kind of behavior going on in the environment, you cause these girls and boys, if a mother is being abused and she's tolerating that, for whatever reason, could be financially, should be whatever it is, she's tolerating that. Then in the psyche, in her daughter, she's teaching this is what you do to get by. So you tolerate this stuff. So I don't really. People probably say, "Oh, I'm an anger management expert." I don't even know what that is. I only go with the title like so because it sounds good. Because it's really not anger I'm fighting. Because anger is a wonderful emotion that God has given us. It's a secondary emotion. It's a wonderful emotion. It's not the anger that I'm fighting. It's the learned
response to
behavior. These boys, and Carlos Reid could verify this. These boys does not just automatically get into this gang and become a crime boss or become. They are groomed. Yeah. But they are groomed for these positions, and because they already have all this hurt and trauma inside of them, it's easy for them to lash out.
I love that. I want to let you go on, but I have to ask my last question before we wrap up. But what I'm getting from you is it's learned, and since it is learned, it can be unlearned.
It can be yes.
And that's what this training seminar is all about. So for those who are watching, please tell them how they can register and be in attendance, and what is the cost.
You can call Bahamas Faith Ministry. We have a flyer that's being circulated right now. You could just go ahead and scan the barcode, and it'll take you straight to registration page. We're trying to get technology savvy, so just scan the barcode. And last thing that I want to say, a lot of people talk about all the senseless killing going on our streets. Let me tell you something, it's senseless to you because you don't understand. But I believe you come to the seminar, we can help you to understand some things. It's a culture. And until you understand the culture, you can't do nothing to help or deter the culture.
I love it. This has been an excellent conversation. I am confident this is going to be an incredible seminar. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
So the push-to-talk device is a beautiful device. It operates on our world-class cellular network. You can take pictures, you can take videos, you can put your persons in different groups. If they want the engineering team to have a different communication than the finance team or the security team, you can do that with the push-to-talk device. And that's not something that you can actually do with a regular communications radio device. We have several different types of devices. There's the 380, the 580 plus, and then there's the 590 plus, which is the top of the line device.
Hi, I'm Christina, and I'm super excited to be the new host of You and Your Money, a local international bank that has actually been closing some of their branches. It actually gives me an opportunity to share my views, my take on the financial matters. Even when we think about what's happening globally, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of having to educate business owners as to the importance, the economic impact, and how it is that we can look at improving the Bahamian economy. $1 billion. That's how much we spend every year importing food in this country. It also gives me an opportunity to have conversations, and that's meaningful conversations with thought leaders within our community, even having to see how it is that we can work together or even the opportunities that may exist for many Bahamians. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to the great conversations that's to come.
I used to think of the bank as my personal ATM machine. If I wanted a new car, new furniture, a weekend trip to Miami, no problem, just max out the credit card or top up my loan. I was a big baller until I realized that 75% of my salary was going to pay back all those loans. Fidelity's personal financial coaching was the best solution. Fidelity gave me a plan with a debt consolidation loan that has a built-in savings that pays 5% interest. I now only have one low monthly payment plus money in my pocket. Give Fidelity Bank a call at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit any of Fidelity's locations or visit a website at fidelitygroup.com.
The islands of the Bahamas. Fly away.
Welcome back. This morning we are discussing Women's Health Month with two highly respected and experienced veterans in the field of women's medicine. One is a gynecologist and obstetrician, and the other is a urogynecologist. So I want to welcome to the show Dr. Dorita Francis-Phillips and Dr. Laura Desrosiers. Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we hear all the time about the importance of annual visits and regular checkups. Dr. Francis-Phillips, can you speak to and elaborate on why that's important in the area of women's health?
So certainly, for women, it's basically important to have at least an annual well woman's visit. It gives the patient basically a time for her to build a rapport with her physician. It gives the physician a time basically to understand and get to know the patient, identifying basically any risk factors that that patient may have that may promote certain health concerns. It's also a good time for basically primary prevention, so where we can basically consult and establish some screening techniques so that we can basically avoid certain diseases in the future.
Okay. And what would you say are some of the most common complaints or concerns that women raise with you when they come into your office?
Right, so I think that question basically depends on the patient's age. So the younger patients sometimes may be more concerned about contraception, and so contraception counseling is more important for them. As the women tend to mature, the concerns tend to be about family planning and basically pregnancy or the ability to conceive. And then further concerns for our seasoned women sometimes tend to be menstrual irregularities like heavy menstrual bleeding, secondary to uterine fibroids as such. Also chronic pelvic pain with conditions like endometriosis.
Okay, understood. So, Dr. Desrosiers, can you talk a little bit about what urogynecology is and how that differs, what you do, how does that differ from, say, an obstetrician and gynecologist like Dr. Francis-Phillips?
Yeah, that's a great question. So urogynecology first was called FPMRS, so Female Pelvic Medicine and Reconstructive Surgery. Long words, mouthful. People were like, wait, what? And so we said, let's just go ahead and cut it to urogynecology. And so there are two pathways rather. You can go through OBGYN residency and then do which is typically a 4-year residency and then an additional 3 years of training. Or you can do a urology residency, which is 5 years training with 2 additional years of training in urogyn. And you'll be classified as either a female urologist or a urogynecologist.
Okay. Now, I know you've mentioned and you talk a lot about urinary incontinence when it comes to your area of specialty. But what are some warning signs that women should be aware of to say, I may have an issue in that particular way?
Urinary incontinence, I emphasize it because it is a disease process that affects a lot of women. It's a silent disease that that goes ignored for the most part. And we've sort of conditioned ourselves and sometimes our patients to think that that's a normal part of aging. And I want to, dismiss that myth. It is not normal and we have options. So things that you'll see, urinary urgency, I'm going to the restroom more often. Typically, less than 8 times in 24 hours is normal. If you're going more than that, then that's abnormal. Urgency is the sense of not being able to defer the urge to go to the restroom. So if that's happening where you literally are trying to get your undergarments off and you feel like the urine's coming out, that's abnormal. In addition, nighttime urination is something that we really haven't talked much about, but that typically is a sign that there's something that's going on. Or having urinary hesitancy. You feel the urge, you get there, and all of a sudden you feel like you can't urinate. Right. All of these things are signs that there's something that's going on that needs to be evaluated.
Okay. So going back to you, Dr. Francis-Phillips, you mentioned endometriosis in our earlier discussion. What are some of the warning signs that women should be aware of when it comes to endometriosis?
Okay, so patients with endometriosis can typically present with a variety of symptoms, but the more common ones would include pain during the menstruation. So painful cycles that may actually start a day or 2 before the onset of menstruation and may last typically into the duration or the first few days of the menstrual cycle. Those are one of the common presentations. We call that dysmenorrhea. Also, patients with endometriosis may have painful intercourse, so having intercourse may be difficult, or they may just have all-around pain in the pelvic area. We call that chronic pelvic pain. Some patients with endometriosis may actually present for the very first time with concerns about infertility. Patients may also have symptoms that may mimic other conditions. We may have symptoms that mimic gastrointestinal conditions such as diarrhea, nausea, constipation, or even painful defecation. They may have symptoms mimicking urinary tract conditions, so painful urination, one of them. They may have simple problems like back pain as well. So The symptoms can vary, but the first 3 symptoms are usually the most common ones, which is basically the pain during the menstruation, pain, chronic pelvic pain, and or pain during intercourse.
Right. So as we have this conversation, it becomes kind of obvious that there's a give and take when it comes to Urogyne and OBGYN. So Dr. Francis-Phillips, can you kind of talk a little bit about how those 2 areas of specialty intersect?
Right, so basically I like to consider the urogynecologist as an older sister to a gynecologist. So basically the younger sister, the gynecologist, would start to see some patients that may present with common female conditions or pelvic floor disorders, be it incontinence, be it a prolapse. And so sometimes we may be able to manage these patients ourselves using some conservative measures. And after a period of managing these patients conservatively, if for a reason the condition is worsening or not improving, that we may need to seek additional resources via the urogynecologist.
Okay. And that makes sense. So, Dr. Desrosiers, how would you say urogynecology addresses those sorts of disorders? So, pelvic floor issues, prolapse, urinary incontinence. Where does Urogyne fit in as a treatment mechanism for those issues?
Yeah, great question. So, I feel like our job is to be a support system for the gynecologists and obstetricians who are seeing these patients on the front line. And so it's not that we want them to send us every patient, because I don't think that that's practical, but I think that starting the management with conservative management, and then being there for collaboration. Plenty of times my colleagues will say, hey, listen, I'm seeing somebody, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? They don't need to send me the patient, they're already seeing the patient, but I'm happy to sort of give them consultation over the phone and just discuss with them what may be helpful. So where we can sort of be helpful is giving options in terms of additional diagnostics and different ways to evaluate the patients. There are times when we need to do a CT urogram, for example, and all of those can be, that may not be within their purview, so I can sort of guide through that. And there are times when we need to collaborate together surgically. I do a lot of minimally invasive procedures, which is something that's very important. I think that we need to provide more minimally invasive procedures to the patients on the island, and so I feel like that's where I sort of can come and be of help.
Right, and that makes sense. And it seems like it's just a natural, like I said, a natural hand come hand go in terms of the interaction between the two, and it works in a multidisciplinary space, which I think medicine is continuing to move further and further in that way as people dealing with more complex issues. So that's good to hear. My final question for both of you: why must women take care of their health? So I'll start with you, Dr. Desrosiers, then we'll end with Dr. Francis-Phillips.
That is a great question. So we are the backbone, not just here, everywhere. Women are the ones that take care of everyone else. They take care of their partners, the children, their parents, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes we get neglected. And it's not because we're doing it on purpose, it's because we want to make sure that we're taking care of everyone else. But we, again, are the backbone. And so if the backbone goes out, then the whole piece will fall apart. So it's very important that we're listening to our bodies, listening and not just saying, I'll take care of it later on, or that's just a part of aging. Right. It's important that we seek the care. If you're having urinary urgency, if there's blood in the urine, if there's things that look abnormal, if you're having chronic pain, or if things are getting worse, you need to seek care, because remember, you are the backbone.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on what Dr. Desrosiers mentioned. We do everything in the homes. We're no longer stay-at-home wives. Most of us, we're working, we're career-oriented. And so it becomes sometimes a challenge for women to wear all the different hats. But it is important to take time out for yourself. You may be preventing a whole lot of complications later on. So I advise women to just take a moment, whether it be your birthday month, and that may be a good way to celebrate your birthday by celebrating you. So self-care is important. Just as how we may sometimes take care of ourselves, we do our hairdressing, our nails, it's very important for us to also plug in that time for our well women's visits and our visits to our gynecologist.
Yeah, basically, you're saying to keep the same energy when it comes to your health.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Understood. Dr. Desrosiers, Dr. Francis-Phillips, I want to thank you both for joining us on Bahamas at Sunrise this morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll be right back.
Meet Leno, your bridge to the future. Wealth planning, investments, corporate services, trust services, pension administration, fund administration, outsourced accounting, and payroll. When you think of financial solutions, think of Leno. Local or international, company or individual, Leno can help. Our team of skilled professionals has the experience and expertise needed for you to strive. Your goals are our goals and our priority. Leno will guide you to the right financial solution with the knowledge, resources, and support you need. Give us a call at 242-396-3225 or email us at info@lenobahamas.com to get started. Visit our website, www.lenobahamas.com, for more information today. Leno, your bridge to the future.
One thing, two things, blue thing, whole things, things that are small, things that are grand, things that fit just right, and in the palm of your hand. Fox Hill Nursery, a large selection of garden supplies. If you can see it in your mind, you can find it at Fox Hill Nursery.
And welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. We are up dead early on a marvelous Monday, the first Monday of June, and we're here at the mid show. It's plenty M's. My name is Mark Daniel.
And I'm Gabrielle Gardner, and it has been a happy Monday indeed so far.
Right? I enjoyed that segment that you had earlier about the training seminar that's going to be happening for working with youth. And I'm always interested in conversations and seminars and sessions like that. Because at the end of the day, you really want to know what actually works. Lots of people have tried to reach our youth that seem to be at risk or undergoing trauma or caught up in just the day-to-day society and what actually works. And that's really what I'm interested in. And I'm happy you guys had that conversation. And I hope that by the end of this week, I can get the answer to that question. I'm going to show close.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the fact that, this is something that my father is deeply invested in, I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. This is literally, of course, my dad. You have, again, Dr. Carlos Reid, Dr. Eric Fox. These are people who've invested literally their lives in young people. And it would be different if I didn't see the results. But there are so many young men that I know who have families, who have businesses, who 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they were on the streets, they were in gangs. And because someone decided to engage with them and someone decided that they were worth investing in, not only have they been blessed and not a statistic and not causing harm to other people, but they are a blessing to their own families and they're able to invest in their own communities. And even better when you see them paying it forward. So I think this is so important to take the veil back. Because we all think like that's a type of person who's good at helping young people. But people who need help will accept help. And you'll be surprised how qualified you are.
That's very encouraging. Because it seems when you just listen to the news and you see the headlines and you don't really understand what's happening, it seems hopeless. It seems like, oh, this generation is lost. Oh, the world's coming to an end. There's all this doom and gloom. But as you said, there's a person there at the center of all of those behaviors. And as they mentioned, that person has been through some life experiences that led to where they are. And you just can't erase that. You have to dive in, meet the person where they are, and connect, right? So anyway, I love that. I'm so happy that they're doing that seminar this
Come
week.
out on June, so we have tomorrow as well as Friday evening, 7 p.m. at Bahamas Faith Ministries. You want to be there.
Yes, and great. So looking forward to that. And we also got more great stuff coming up in our second half. We're going to be talking with Zhivargo Laing about the upcoming 50th Independence Distinguished Lecture Series happening at UB.
And the Tourism Development Corporation is here to talk about the farmers marketplace. But before all that, we'll have a second look at weather with Godfrey Burnside.
This is Weather at Sunrise.
Thank you, Devrel. Good morning, Bahamas. And yes, that collected at the weather sunrise. The tropics remain quiet this morning, and tropical cyclone formation are expected during the next 7 days. In the marine forecast today, those winds northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet, falling light and variable at times over the extreme northwest Bahamas, light and variable 10 knots or less, 1 to 3 feet over the remainder of the islands. On Tuesday, those winds become southwesterly at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet in northwest and central Bahamas, 10 knots or less, seas 1 to 3 feet over the southeastern islands. On Wednesday, winds continue southwesterly at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet over the northwest and central Bahamas, southeast to south at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet over the southeastern islands. Yeah, tides. You can expect a high tide at 9:19 this morning. Your next low tide will be at 3:22 this afternoon. High gain tonight at 9:50. Sunset 7:56 this evening. Rising on 6:18. UV index 8. Your water temperature 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And your moon phase full moon. Your extended look. Weak cold front should move near Grand Bahama, Abaco, and Stall tomorrow evening. That will cause some increase in cloudiness and some showers, possible thunderstorms over the extreme northwest Bahamas. For the most part, high pressure builds across the islands, so we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds. Still can expect a short thunderstorm by afternoon, though temperature daytime will be in the upper 80s, at nighttime in the mid-70s. That puts you up on your final look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Davriel.
Thanks, Godfrey. The Tourism Development Corporation is all about establishing linkages between tourism and other sectors. One of those key sectors is agriculture, and the Agritourism Council is here today to talk with us about this. Joining us is Giorgio Walks, manager of the TDC, as well as Shacara Lightbourne, deputy chair of the Agritourism Council. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning, thank you for having us.
So actually, Mr. Walks, I'm going to start with you. Of course, the TDC, as I mentioned, is looking to establish linkages between tourism and other industries. Why is this particular, linkage between tourism and agriculture so important?
Is extremely important. As you know, agriculture is a dying sector in our economy, and we just wanted to empower and increase awareness and visibility for those local farmers that may have the capacity to produce, for those food and beverage directors, those purchasing agents. So we just wanted to create a platform, a space for them to showcase those products that the quality of products that they can produce.
Shacara, what is agritourism, and what exactly does the Agritourism Council do?
Well, agritourism is creating that linkage between, obviously, agriculture, just as it sounds, and tourism, whether that be that's through food, through festivals, through any type of interaction where we have people interacting with food and sometimes their environment. So the purpose of the Agritourism Council is to sensitize and make people aware of those linkages. A lot of things people don't correlate with agribusiness and agriculture, just as simple as going to the food store to buy your food. Mm-hmm. The food stores are agribusinesses, from the hotels, getting them to buy more local and engage more local farmers, and being more environmentally conscious. As we know, the closer the food is to you, the better it is for you, actually, and it reduces our carbon footprint by buying local. So the purpose of the council is to encourage our whole tourism industry, particularly those large resorts and companies, to buy as much local food as possible instead of having to import food all the time. And from them, those large companies buying food locally, it helps to pump money back into our own economy and encourage our local producers.
Have you found, and I'll put this to either of you, but have you found, particularly when it comes to hotels, in the Bahamas, I think the conversation about shopping local is growing, but it's not necessarily as strong as it is. For some of, the tourists who come here, they love to hear that food is farm to table. They love to hear that this was grown locally and sustainably. So have you found that hotels have been particularly interested in having locally grown products?
Yes, the conversation has been had. They've shown keen interest in having those types of conversations, but it's always, some of the farmers lack the necessary requirements to get into the hotels, particularly some certifications that these farmers may not have. But Shacara could speak more on that, on certification.
Yeah, so there's also the big thing I think for the hotels is the food safety aspect of things. Having that trust in the relationship with the farmers is going to be very important moving forward, and I think the Agri-Tourism Council is very important in that making those relationships between the buyers and the producers. So having those certifications like good agricultural practices and HACCP, and especially for the agro-processors, they don't want to have to take on that huge liability of food being unsafe and making their tourists or their guests sick or anything like that. So this is where we come in to make sure that we have the necessary training with the farmers that the farmers need to be able to access those larger markets. And I think they are open to it, but as farmers and producers, we have to do our part as well to actually upgrade ourselves to access that international market. Because if you really think about it, even though the market is here, it's still an international market. A lot of people like to talk about export, but we have the market right here. Yeah. So we can start here first, and then we can talk about feeding other countries. We need to try to feed ourselves first. I always like to say, let's feed the 400,000 first, and then we can think about everybody else. So the awareness, I run a farmers market as well myself, and people are definitely interested in buying local, but we need to be consistent with our production levels, be consistent on the food safety level, and be consistent with keeping up with the training that we need to be able to produce good quality, safe food for people.
Speaking of a farmers market, tell me a little bit about the farmers marketplace.
Okay, so this farmers market that's going to be happening this Saturday at Arawaki. This is an initiative of the Tourism Development Corporation. We're piggybacking off a farmers forum that we had a couple of months ago, where we invited farmers to talk to speak to different aspects of agriculture, whether it be to accessing funding, interacting with chefs, and just having different conversations. So this is like the third event in that series that the council is actually helping tourism to put on. Before that, we had a culinary conclave, and that one was specifically for chefs. So now we are having the farmers market, which is going to be this Saturday on Arawaki. Best place to have it. At 12 o'clock, right, Giorgio? 12 o'clock, 12 to 8. And so the farmers will have access to not only locals, but tourists as well in that area, and also buyers from the different hotels and establishments that may be interested in their products. And so we're also going to be having a culinary competition where the chefs are going to come and pick local produce from the vendors there and actually prepare dishes, local dishes from the produce that they get there on the spot.
Wow!
Using a brick oven.
Using a brick oven. Yeah, I got a rock
all
up.
happening this Saturday.
This Saturday, yes.
All happening.
So I have to ask you, Mr. Wax, how do you feel from a Tourism Development Corporation perspective? Are you pleased with the growth that you're seeing, and does this align with any other initiatives that you have upcoming?
We're very pleased, very pleased. The Tourism Development Corporation is a very small unit, unit of 12, and we have 4 department leads, and we have been taking great strides in every initiative, every project, to put our best foot forward.
So I'm extremely pleased with the progress we've been making.
I am extremely excited about this this particular event, but just all the exciting things that are happening. I actually went to a farmer's market this weekend, and I was so proud to have bought. I bought chicken. I bought the vegetables that I was going to have. I bought the fruits that I was going to have this week. And I do think this is such an important conversation for us to get involved in. Now, for those who will be, I guess, displaying their produce, is that already an assigned group, or can people still sign up to participate?
I'll let Giorgio take that one.
So persons can still sign up. We have limited spaces available. Okay. They can get at me at gwalks@bahamas.com or 810-6285. I repeat, it's limited spaces available, but they can still sign up.
There's still a little bit of time.
Yes. Okay. And it's absolutely free for farmers.
Yeah, and
no
we'll also have activities, and we'll have a DJ. I think we have some activities planned for the kids as well. So just come on down at Arawaki. Definitely interact with your farmers. This is an opportunity to speak with the people who actually produce your food. You don't have to wonder what's in this, what's in that. But definitely an opportunity and something to do on a Saturday.
Absolutely.
For the family.
Certainly somewhere that you want to be. Arawaki, this Saturday, 12 to 8.
12 to 8.
12 to 8.
Right. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
What do you want from a cloud solution? You want flexibility and edge? You want to modernize applications with the ability to deliver new ones with lightning speed? You want an infrastructure that's automated, secure, cost-effective, and scalable? You want to give the end user the freedom they want with the control you need. You can't get all that from just any cloud. You need something better. You need Bahamas Cloud. Contact the experts today at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
Welcome back. The Government and Public Policy Institute of the University of the Bahamas is proud to announce that it will commence its highly anticipated 50th Independence Distinguished Lecture Series on June 13th. Here to talk with us about this is Zhivargo Laing, Executive Director and Senior Policy Fellow of the Government and Public Policy Institute at University of the Bahamas. Good morning and welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise, Mr. Laing.
Good morning, Brother Law, and it's a pleasure to be here. Good morning to all your watchers and listeners.
Yes, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Always a great discussion. So let's jump right on in. So we're talking about this distinguished lecture series happening on June 13th. Who will be speaking at this event?
Well, for the very first time in the history of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the University of the Bahamas, a sitting Governor General is going to be our principal presenter, our lecturer on that occasion. Fantastic. That's the Most Honorable Cornelius A. Smith, Governor General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
That's fantastic. A great speaker. Always love to hear him speak. Do you know, can you tell us what will he be speaking about?
Well, the Governor General has a rich background in the Bahamas, a rich background, starting out as an educator, having then went into private life, spent some time in customs. For a while, actually, he worked at a place where I was a summer student, Syntex Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And of course, in 1982 began a career, his actual elected career in politics, and remained in that sphere for for 3 terms. And then, of course, served as our ambassador for a time to Washington, D.C., and really distinguished himself as a public servant. And then, of course, in 2019, or June 2019, became the Governor General. So given the richness of his experience, having sat at the front lines of many pivotal and seminal events in the country, the Governor General is going to be reflecting on these themes: empowerment, education, and excellence. 50 years into our independence. And so we're going to be able to hear from him as he talks about this country from a living perspective, a historical perspective, an experiential perspective on these major things that I think are marvelous ideals for the country.
He is definitely qualified to speak on the topics you've mentioned. The boy from Snow Hill, Long Island, very close family member of mine, and I've always admired him. So looking forward to this lecture. What is the purpose of the Distinguished Lecture Series, and what has been some of the knowledge shared over the years?
Well, you know, the Government and Public Policy Institute exists to, among other things, promote public policy dialogue. Very often in the Bahamas, when we discuss matters of national and international importance, we come at it from an opinionated point of view more so than anything else, because it is, you know, really that's what most people can draw on.
Right.
What our responsibility is to bring people who have deep knowledge, deep experience, and evidence to bear on the things that they talk about. So over the years, for instance, if we're dealing with public policy matters, we've had cabinet ministers come in, we've had the prime minister come in. If we were dealing with matters related to U.S. Bahamas relations, we've had a distinguished professor from the U.S. Naval Academy come in. We've had the Chinese ambassador to deal with Bahamas-Chinese relations. And so we draw on people who have the wherewithal to bring evidence, experience, and deep knowledge to bear on these subject matters. And they've done a great job.
It sounds so. I'm sorry that this is the first one that I'll be catching, but I'll be there, and I didn't need to catch up on the previous years. This year is our 50th year of independence. What are some of the topics of discussion do we anticipate hearing about during this lecture series?
Well, I think one of the things that you'll find is that we're trying to cover the span of issues that we have had to deal with over the last 50 years, whether that's the economics of things, whether that's education, whether that's our cultural realities. As an example, the Government and Public Policy Institute is conducting right now, or completed a survey called a National Cultural Values Survey. So we want to see what are our values today, how they have changed over the 50 years of our existence. And so we're going to look at a number of areas of concern to the country.
That, once again, we're at such a crucial point in our history. 50 years isn't that long. We're still teeny boppers compared to the rest of the world, right? And just like the teeny boppers around here, you make some mistakes, you learn from it, and then we mature. So I feel we're at that point where we're learning how to mature, learn from our mistakes, and put our best foot forward. You've been on the show many times before, and we usually invite you to get your opinion on various topics that are relevant and current. Recently, the Prime Minister made some remarks on the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, and he mentioned that it's no longer working for the development of Freeport and Grand Bahama. Can you provide your thoughts on the Prime Minister's comments?
Sure. I think that the Prime Minister is right in some ways about there being issues of concern in Freeport, to the extent that Freeport has been in an economic stagnation now going on 20 plus years. So if you think that the Grand Bahama Port Authority, which is the partner in the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, is supposed to be instrumental in promoting Freeport's economic growth and development, then you have to concede that over the last 20 plus years, that has not happened, and therefore something is not right.
Right.
But by the same token, if you believe that the government of the Bahamas has a responsibility for the growth and economic development of the island of Grand Bahama, including Freeport, and that hasn't happened, then you have to look at the government itself. And so I think that we have to be careful to comprehensively look at our issues so that our diagnoses are correct, so that we can have the correct prescriptions for it. And I just think that it's a little narrow to only look at the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, because for the decades of the 90s, in the decade of the 90s, Freeport flourished, and the same Hawkesbury Creek Agreement prevailed.
Right.
And people who live in Freeport will tell you, outside of the economics of it, it's a great quality of life to live in Freeport. The crime is low, the place is organized, it's clean. It's just economically stagnated, and that can't be only a function of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement.
Thank you so much for your perspective on that. I would love to dig in more, but let's talk back about the lecture series before we wrap up. So back to the lecture series, tell us, what is the time? We know the date is June 13th, and where is the venue, the time and venue?
So, yes, so the time is 6:30, and the venue, so that's Tuesday, June 13th. At 6:30, this series will run from 6:30 to 8:30. Is at the Harry Seymour Library Auditorium at the University of the Bahamas. Unless we get a huge throng of people who decide they want to come, and we pray and hope and request that such people come, we will remain in the Harry Seymour Auditorium. Otherwise, we will move to the auditorium, the main auditorium.
Fantastic. Well, we know all of our viewers are going to be there in droves, so you better get that other venue ready just in case, right?
It's a great event. It's a great event. I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward to listening to the Governor General. I mean, to get his perspective, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, it is. It's a treat, once again, to be in his presence, to hear his thoughts, to learn the lessons from him, and then also be surrounded by wonderful people who are attending the lecture. Before we go, what do you want to say to our viewers out there about this lecture series and why they should attend?
Listen, you and I are only going to understand better and contribute better to our own personal and collective development through understanding. That understanding means we have to get information. That means we must get information from sources that can provide that information accurately and with perspectives that lend to our ability to really think about it. And so, and there is something about learning together.
Yes.
Listening and learning together. And so I just think that if you want to advance your own cause and to advance the cause of your children and their children, you need to put yourself in a position where you can get as much information as possible. And these lectures, these opportunities provide the occasion to do that.
Well, very well said. Once again, get that other venue ready, because we're coming in droves to support this lecture series and learn so much from the Honorable C.A. Smith and everyone that's going to be in attendance. We want to thank you again for your time this morning. It's always a pleasure being in your company, having a great conversation, and looking forward to seeing you at the lecture series.
My pleasure. Thank you much.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Zhivargo Laing, Executive Director and Senior Policy Fellow at the Government and Public Policy Institute at UB. Thank you again for joining us on Bahamas at Sunrise. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
One thing, two things. Blue thing, whole things. Things that are small, things that are grand, things that fit just right, and in the palm of your hand. Fox Hill Nursery, a large selection of garden supplies. If you can see it in your mind, you can find it at Fox Hill Nursery.
Well, it has been a beautiful Monday on Bahamas at Sunrise. We had such incredible conversations about, impacting change within our community, whether that is from obviously a social violence perspective, whether that is from an agriculture perspective, whether that is from a financial perspective, just in terms of growth. So really important conversations today.
It's a great way to kick off the week, to kick off the month of June. We're now in Q3 for those of you who are tracking the quarters, your quarterly goals. So you got the next quarter to start at now. And make sure you attack them head on, overcome all perceived obstacles. And I want you to say what you say in the beginning. And have
a happy Monday to you.
There you go. It's been a pleasure as always having you with us. Go forth and have a productive week. And we'll see you on Fantastic Friday